Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is SUKKAH Daf Vav. We begin at Hey Amud Beis, 8 lines from the bottom of the Amud. Yesterday we concluded that Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that the Aron and Kaperis were merely 8.5 tefachim high, could not use that as a source for the halacha that a mechitza needs to rise at least 10 tefachim in height to be considered. Rather, has Rabbi Yehuda learned that halacha? Through a halacha l'Moshe Messina, which is the clearest form of Torah Sheba'al Peh. Says the Gemara, the Amar Rav Chia bar Ashi Amarav. The following 3 things were taught by way of halacha l'Moshe Messina. Shi'urin. Only shi'urin pertaining to Isser, for instance. A kazais of chelev is aser. A kiseves of food on Yom Kippur is aser. Shi'urin pertaining to Hilchos Tumah, kazais of a nevela is matame, all those shi'urin. And chatzitzin, details regarding Hilchos Chatzitza, when it comes to being toivel, u'mechitzin, all the various halachos of mechitzis, including the fact that a mechitzah needs to rise at least 10 tefachim in order for it to be considered a chatzitza, a proper divider between 2 rishuyos. So these 3 things were taught by way of halacha l'Moshe Messina. Says the Gemara, shi'urin d'oraisa. Why do we need to learn shi'urin through Torah Sheba'al Peh? We have shi'urin within the psukim in Torah Shebechsav. The Chsiv. When Moshe Rabbeinu was praising Eretz Yisrael, he said, look, Eretz Yisrael has all these various species. Eretz, chitos, sa'ira, wheat and barley, v'gefen, grapes, ute'inav, rima, and figs and pomegranates. Eretz, zeis shemen, dvash, a land that has olive oil, grows olives, udvash, honey, date honey, olives and dates. So, everything's in Eretz Yisrael. And not only that, it had a deeper spiritual meaning as well. V'amar Rav Chanan, kol ha'pasuk hazeh l'shi'urin nemar. Moshe Rabbeinu was conveying another message as well. Look, all those fruits that grow in Eretz Yisrael supply shi'urin for Torah. So the halachas of Torah are measured based on Eretz Yisrael produce. Says Rashi 4 lines from the bottom. The shi'urin nemar. HaPasuk medaber b'shvacha shel Eretz Yisrael. The pasuk is praising Eretz Yisrael. Shafilu b'divrei Torah, even when it comes to halachas of Torah. Tzrichen l'shair b'peraseo isurin shel Torah. So even the isurin, the halachas of Torah, follow the shi'urin, which are based on the various fruits that grow in Eretz Yisrael. How's that? Explains the Gemara. Let's go down the line. Chita, wheat. What type of shear is wheat-based? L'bayis hamanuga. If there's a house with a negar, there's going to be a halacha which is based on wheat. This none we learned in the Mishnah. Hanichnas l'bayis hamanuga. One who enters a home with a negar, v'kelev al kseifav. Suppose he's carrying his begadim on his shoulders, folded up on his shoulders. He's not wearing them; he's just carrying them in. V'sandolav, and his sandals, v'taba'osav, and his rings, b'yadai, in his hands. Not wearing them, just carrying them into the house. What happens to them? Who? This fellow himself, v'hein, and all the items that he's bringing with him, tumein miyad. They will become tamei immediately upon entry. Why? Says Rashi on the bottom line. Tumein miyad, beloy shehiyah, without any waiting. One that enters the home becomes tamei. V'kulu, ba elabayis karinavu. That applies to all. He entered the home, they entered the home, they're all tamei immediately. Continues the Gemara. What about if Hayalavish Kalev, he was wearing his begadim? Says Rashi on the top line. Hayalavish Kalev, now it's different. The ikri hu begadim. We refer to them as his begadim. He's not just carrying a load. They're being worn by him. They're part of him, they're bottled to him. Continues the Gemara. V'sandala b'raglav, or his sandals were being worn on his feet. Now he was actually wearing his rings. So what happens now? Now there's a difference between him and them. Hu tamei miyad. The fellow himself becomes tamei immediately upon entry, because pasuk says v'abo elabayis yitm. However, these begadim are not independent entities. They're part of him, and therefore they only get tumah on account of him. It takes a while. They remain tamei ad sheyisha, until he remains in that home. a prescribed period, the time that it takes to have a meal, b'chtei achilas pras, as long as it takes to eat a pras, a half a loaf. Which loaf? The loaf we discussed in Maseches Eruvin, which contains 2 meals worth of bread. So pras is half of that. 1 meal's worth. So if he stays in that home long enough to have that meal, now his tumah will extend over to his begadim. We learn this from a pasuk, as Rashi will bring. Now, what type of bread are we speaking about? Paschitin, made from wheat flour, which is more tasty and eaten quicker. V'lei basa'ern, as opposed to barley bread, which takes longer. Mesev, we calculate it based on eating while leaning, while lying. He's focusing, he's concentrating on his meal, not really procrastinating. So it's a quicker, it's a shorter shear. And likewise, he was eating it with lifton, with some accompaniment, which moves the meal along, and it takes less time for him to eat that amount of bread. So it's actually a chumrah, 3 chumras: wheat, focusing, and together with lifton. Let's go over to Rashi on the top line again. Hu tamei miyad. He becomes tamei right away. He entered the home, he's tamei. However, why? Pasuk says, if one actually eats something in the home, he has to wash his clothing, he has to be toiled them, they become tamei. The Brisa teaches us as follows: perhaps only if he's going to eat and lie there. What if he only eats without lying? Lies without eating. None of the above. How do we know that his begadav will become tamei? Even in that case, riba. To repeat chabes begadav twice. Even without actually eating in the home or lying in the home, his begadav become tamei. If so, why does the Torah even mention eating? You must say, the rabbis are going to include everything. Why does the pasuk mention that he's going to eat in that home? For a shear, litin shear l'sheichuk de'achila. Pasuk is telling you, in order for the begadim to become tamei, he has to remain in that home as long as it takes to have a meal. That's a significant amount of time. He's established himself in that home, and now not only he is tamei, that already happened when he entered the home, but his begadim contracted tumah as well. She'ein ton tibas kibas begadim at sheyishe k'dei achila. Of course, he himself became tamei right away. However, it doesn't say kibas begadim immediately. Only later, when he stayed there long enough to have a meal. So we learned that v'oichel b'bayis means he was there long enough to theoretically have a meal. Then, even his begadim, which he is wearing, become tamei as well. Continues Rashi, achilas pras chatzi kikar, half a loaf. Shir chachamim oisei lemazon shtei sudas. That's the loaf of bread discussed in Eruvin. Contains 2 meals worth. Le'erav desnan be'eruvin chetzu beis hamanuga. It's a Mishnah there. Half of that loaf is a shear for beis hamanuga. Paschitin. So wheat bread, which is tastier. Sheyasamu etes. It takes less time to have it. Mishal so'irim, rather than barley bread, which takes longer. Mesev. He's leaning. He's lying. This was their manner of eating. Mishu Mesev, says Rashi, one who eats in that manner, who asik ba'achila, he's preoccupied with his meal, ve'ena turd b'dvar macherim. He doesn't get easily distracted with other things, so his meal moves right along. 3 chumras, paschitim, focused, and eating it with lifton. So indeed we see that chita, wheat, provides a shear, a benchmark for Yisurei Torah, for Shiurei Torah. Continues the Gemara. What about sa'ira? 4 lines from the top. Sa'ira. What about barley? What type of shear is measured based on barley? This nan. Etzem kasa'ira. A bone chip of a mace. The size of a barley. Metame b'magu b'masa. Is metame through touching and carrying. Ve'enim metame b'oil, but not oil. So we see that barley provides a shear for tumas etzem. Geffen. What's a shear pertaining to vines? Kadesh revi'is yain l'nazir. We know that a nazir may not drink a revius of wine, and likewise, he cannot even have any vine-related substance like the leaves of the vine, the fresh shoots. How do we measure those? It's revius based as well. but revius is a liquid quantity. How are we going to measure solid substances using the revius? So let's go over to Rashi. Just about halfway down the Amud in Rashi. Geffen, mashi arabay. What was measured using the geffen? Answers the Gemara, the revius yain. Explains Rashi, b'shar isuri nazir. Regarding the other isurim, not really strictly wine, vine shoots or vine leaves. The chartzanim, pits, lulovin, these fresh branches of the vine which are edible, va'olan leaves, mitzdarf from the shir revius yain. So if he has some of these substances that equal a measure of revius yain, he is over. How are we going to get to revius when we speak about solid material? Explains Rashi, you do the following experiment. You fill a kois with wine, and you insert these leaves, etc., and you fill until you have wine spill out. How much wine? A revius of wine. Now you know that amount of leaves equal a revius. Now, why were you measuring specifically with wine? We're using geffen, revius yain, as the benchmark for revius of leaves. The same thing could have been done with water. Says Rashi, no, there's a difference, because wine is a thicker substance and resists as a more resistant surface pressure. So it takes more to push them out of the cup. You can't compare. Doing this experiment, just shear with a cup filled with water, as opposed to measuring with wine. Why? Yain is relatively thicker, and isn't easily pushed out of that kois. It heaps, it rises above the kois until it finally gets pushed over the side. So it takes more leaves to push out a revius of yain, and indeed, this revius of yain is going to provide the measurement, the shear of how much olin, lulavin, chartzanim of a vine are usher for the nazir. Continues the Gemara. What about te'ena? What shear is te'ena based? The minimum amount of edible food which constitutes a malacha of Eitzah on Shabbos is a shear of food equal to a dried fig. Although typically a shear achila is kazayis, but the Mefarshim explained the Rishonim in Shabbos that for chiv Eitzah you need something chashav, melechas machsheves asur Torah, and the shear was placed at a kugeres, a dried fig, which is greater than a kazayis. Remind, what do we measure based on a pomegranate? This is pertaining to tumah. A kli that has a hole and is no longer suitable for use is no longer mitami. And that's a remind-based hole. A remind-based shear. Kol klei bali batam. Only homeowners kalim, as opposed to a merchant's kli. As soon as it gets even a small hole, it's no longer fit for use, you can't sell it. So certainly it's not makabel tumah, but a homeowner's kli. Intended for domestic use. He's not going to discard of his kli as soon as it gets a small hole. If it gets a small hole the size of a zayis, he'll use it for pomegranates. But once that kli, as Taisus points out, we're speaking about a kli eitz, which has value more than a kli cheres. So this kli is going to hold on to as long as he could, and until it gets a hole the size of a pomegranate, it's still roi for use and still mertamatum. Kol klei balabatim shiur kirimayim. So if it gets a hole large enough to allow a pomegranate to slip through, it's no longer fit for use, no longer mekabel tumah. And the pasuk concludes, Eretz zeis shemen udvash. What does this mean? Eretz Yisrael is a land shekol shiurei kazeisim, where olives grow, which are used for all measurements of Torah. Says, what do you mean? Kol shiurei sakadaytach all shiurim ha'ika hani damrin. We just provide a long list of other shiurim, which aren't necessarily olive related. Ella ema, rather say shiroiv shiur kazeisim, most shiurim of Torah are zayis based. Rashi provides a long list: kazayis of maize, nevela, israchel of dam, pigel, nice, many shiurim of Torah are kazayis based. And finally, we have dvash, something sweet, honey. which is referring to honey produced from dates. So it's referring to the date that grows in Eretz Yisrael, which shear is date-based. We know that on Yom Kippur, one is meant to refrain from achila, but in contrast to Kol HaTorah Kula, where achila is considered a kazayis, on Yom Kippur it says you're not meant to negate inui. The Chachamim established that the negation of inui only takes place if one eats food equivalent to a plump date. So it's based on this pasuk. We see that a kiseves provides a shear. Chacham added the gasa element, has to be a plump date. So that's considered a shear for achila Yom Kippur. In any case, we see that all these shiurim are contained in a pasuk. Alma de'raisa ninu, Torah shebachsav. Why do we need halacha mishmei Sinai for shiurei Torah? Says in 1 second. V'tispra. Do you really think shiurim miksivi? We're the shiurim in the pasuk. We have lots of fruits, chita, sa'ira, gefen. We don't have any description of details of shiurim. What do you mean the shiurim are in the Torah? Ela hilchas hanenu. In fact, they were presented through the halacha l'mashmei Sinai. Ukras machta ba'almu. This pasuk was merely used by the Chachamim as a asmachta, as a support, as a remes. We always seek to find halachos of Torah Sheba'al Peh within the Torah itself, because everything was mentioned and hinted in the Torah in advance. So certainly, it's hinted in this pasuk. The fact is, all these shivas aminim are going to be used for various halachos, various shiurim. But that's only once you know the halachos, once you know the shiurim, which were conveyed by the halacha l'mashmei Sinai. Continues the Gemara. What was the second thing on the list? Shiurim, and then we had chatzitzin. Chatzitzin? Halachos of chatzitza d'oraisa? No. Once again, we have a pasuk for that. Why do we need halacha l'mashmei Sinai, which is Torah Sheba'al Peh? V'rach chatzas b'sari b'mayim. We learn from here. B'sari b'mayim needs to be direct contact between one's flesh and the water when he is tovel. Shelo yehei davar choytetz b'nei lebein hamayim. There can't be any barrier between himself and the water. That's a pasuk. The chatzitza disqualifies the tefillah. So it's like Marki Asay Hilchas. You know what the halacha is coming for? The sa'arai. That even a chatzitza present in one's hair disqualifies. Could the Rabba Bar Bachana, the Amar Rabba Bar Bachana. At times, even a small chatzitza in one's hair can get in the way. Nima achas kshura. If he has one hair tied up within itself. Chitzetzes doesn't allow water in, and it's chaytzitz. Shalish, you have 3 hair tied together. And in chaytzitz, why? Because hair is tough, and when you have 3 hairs tied together, the water will get through. However, shtaim, 2 tied together, that's a toss-up. Any day, I'm not sure whether or not it's considered a chatzitz. In any case, we see pretty clearly that chatzitza is a concern even when it's present in one's hair. And that's what the halacha was coming to tell us. Asks the Gemara, let's also learn from a pasuk. We learn from a pasuk that one's hair is part of the tefillah process. We learn from here, what is es coming for? Es hatafel b'sari. The thing which is attached to one's flesh. Umayniu, what is that? Sa'ari. So here as well is part of the tefillah process, and we assume just as chatzitza disqualifies the basar, it disqualifies the hair as well. So why do we need halacha mishmei Sinai? Okay, so hilchasa, you know what halacha is coming for? To provide details, to give us the guidelines of chatzitza, which we can't really see from the Pesukah. Look at the Rabbi Yitzchak. Don't Rabbi Yitzchak. Dvar Torah. Says Rashi on top, Dvar Torah halacha mishmei Sinai. So through the halacha we learn the guidelines. Dvar Torah, says the Gemara, Ruba Yamak B'dalav Chaytzitz. A chatzitz is only considered such when 2 conditions are present. One, on account of its size. It overtook the person. It covers most of a person's body. And number 2, he's makbelov. He's particular. He doesn't want this chatzitz. So on account of its size, on account of its quality, of the person's attitude. So when both of those conditions are present, that is considered a chatzitza, which is considered a barrier between oneself and the water. So that's Minat Torah. Dvar Torah, only when two conditions are there is there concern. Rubai, large size chatzitza, u'makpid alav. And this fellow doesn't want it. He wants it removed. Then we say it's chaytzitz. But if only one of these conditions are met, for instance, it's large in size, but he's indifferent to it. Why? Let's see Rashi. On the top line. Rubai roiv sa'ari. Metunav petit. Suppose most of his hair is filled with tit, with dirt, or tied one at a time, in which case it's a proper chatzitza. It poses a barrier. And this fellow is particular about it. Chaytzitz. So when both conditions are met, it's roiv and he's makbid, that's a concern. Someone medayik that it would seem from Rashi that this halacha, that both conditions, roiv and miyut, are preconditions for chatzitza, only applies to hair. But suppose the chatzitza is on one's body, even a small chatzitza is a concern. That's how Tosfos is medayik. The Torah says no. Rashi didn't mean that. Rashi was just trying to highlight something. He was trying to highlight that even if the roiv is only in the hair, meaning suppose the body is free of chatzitzis, but the hair is rubi chatzitzis, is also a concern. See, as the shittas of a ga'onim, machlok is Ramam and ga'onim, whether we view the body and the hair as one. So rubi means the chatzitza covers the head and the hair, or according to the ga'onim we split the two. Hair is one entity, and rubi of hair is a chaytzitz, and body is another entity. Rubi of body itself is also chaytzitz. So it would appear that Rashi is following the shittas of ga'onim, even if the body is free of chatzitz, but the hair part of the person is filled with chatzitz, that's a problem. Okay. In any case, when both tanoim are there, it's significant on account of its large size and attitude is there as well. He rejects the chatzitza, then it's a true chatzitza. But if he's really indifferent, he's not particular about it, a makpidalav, there's no chatzitza. Why? Says Rashi, because then we regard the substance as part of his body. It's batal to him. He doesn't intend on removing it. He's indifferent to its presence. So it's batal to the person, in which case it doesn't pose a chatzitza concern. So this we learn from Halachah Meshim Sinai. Sure, the pasuk tells us chatzitza is a concern, whether it's in the basar or the ser, but how much? In what manner? Says Rabbi Yitzchak. That's why we need Halachah Meshim Sinai. When both conditions are there, roiv and makpid, it's a chatzitza. Continues the Gemara in the second line. That's Minat Torah. You need two conditions. But midrabanan, even when there's only one condition, on account of its size or on account of his personal attitude, it's also asur. The gazru, Chacham applied gzera, al rubai. So if it's big, she'ein makbid, even if he's not particular about it, because one condition is there, it's large. That's also chatzitza, mishum rubai makbid, because it might lead to the next phase. It might even lead him to allow a large size chatzitza, rubai, which he is makbid about. Over there you'll have two conditions. So they said even if it's just one condition, rubai, even without makbid, that's also chatzitza. And likewise, mal mi'uti makbid. Suppose he's makbid, so you have the personal element, despite the fact that it's just small in size. Since one condition is met, that's also a concern, mishum rubai makbid, because it might lead to a case of rubai makbid, in which case you have both elements, large and makbid. And over there it's a chatzitza Minat Torah. So Minat Torah, you need large and attitude. Midrabanan, even one or the other is enough. Says the Gemara, v'ligzor nami. Why wouldn't they disallow even in a case where none are there? When no conditions are met. Al mi'utai, if it's small in size. She'ein makpid, for which he doesn't care. Why? Because it might lead to a case where there's one condition present, which is a concern. Mishum mi'utai makpid. This might lead to a case where he will allow himself to have a chatzitza, small in size, which he is particular about. In which case there will be one condition met, which is a concern. Inami, alternatively, let's disallow a case where there are no conditions met, because it might lead to a case where mishum rubai she'ein makbid might end up being large in size next time, where he won't be particular about it, but since one element is there, large in size, it's a concern. So why only when there's one condition do you consider the chatzitza midrabanan, and not when there is no conditions met? Says the Gemara very pashut. He gufa gzera. Even when one aspect is there, is it minat Torah? No, it's only the gzera d'Rabbanan because I might lead to a case where we have both aspects. So since only one condition, even one case when you really have one condition, it's only Rabbanim, v'anan neikav v'nigza gzera gzera, we're going to go apply a double gzera. Consider the chatzitza when no conditions are met, because it might lead to a case where one condition is met, which is only the Rabbanim, because it might lead to a case where both conditions are met. You don't do that. Rashi in Beitzah says, Pasuk says, he meant to make a mishmeres for Torah. Asu mishmeres, v'lo mishmeres l'mishmeres. You don't make a double fence around the Torah. So, in that Torah, only two conditions are concerned. With the Rabbanim, even one, that's a fence around the Torah. We don't take it a step further. To consider chatzitza, even when there are no conditions met, that's a step too far, which doesn't justify a gzera. Now, interesting machlekes between the Rashba and other Rishonim regarding the definition of makpid. He's particular. Is it based on his attitude, or is it based on what's commonly accepted among society? Interesting shaila. Meaning, suppose you have something which nobody cares about, but he cares about. Or conversely, he doesn't care, but everybody does. Is that a chatzitza or not? Machlokes rishonim. And there's another point, as I mentioned earlier, regarding how to calculate roiv. Do we look at the person as one big entity, or do we separate between the makim haguf and the makim sa'aris, so each one perhaps is calculated separately? That's another machlokes rishonim. So let's just summarize the halacha of chatzitza, which pertains to something found on the basar or the sa'aris. Minat Torah, only when it's rubai and makbid is it a concern. Midrabanan, one or the other. However, if none are present, it's small in size and he's really indifferent about it, I'll agree, that's not a concern. Continues the Gemara. The third item on that list of halacha Moshe Sinai was mechitzin, hilchas mechitzin. Says the Gemara, mechitzin hadamar. It's referring to the halacha that we mentioned yesterday. How do we know that mechitzin is meant to rise 10 tefachim? We learn this from halacha Moshe Sinai. Ha nichel Rabbi Yehuda. Well, that works according to Rabbi Yehuda, who had no other source. Ela the Rabbi Meir Meikel Meima. But according to Rabbi Meir, who sourced that halacha from the Mishkan, from the fact that the Shechina rested on top of the Aron, which was 10 tefachim. And we know the Shechina never descended to the Eretz. Apparently, the Eretz rises up until that point. And a machitza has to separate the entire Rishus Eretz. It has to rise 10 tefachim. According to him, why do we need halacha? L'moshe Messina for machitza. Says the Gemara, is that the only halacha pertaining to machitza? Many others, which I learned through the halacha L'moshe Messina. Ki asay ilchas. You know what the halacha is coming for? Look good. To tell you how to stretch things. So we had this halacha the other day about amud, a post 10 tefachim high. The surface on top is considered Rishus HaYachid. You know why? Because we stretch the sides up. We view as though the top surface is surrounded by mechitzes. Rashi brings another example of good. You have a doorway, a pesach, or a ceiling, a tikra. We say, Pi tikra yored v'seisim. We sort of bring down the edge of the ceiling, we consider it as a pesach, and we view the home as a separate entity. We're going to learn this later on by Hashem in the Masechta. So the concept of good, this virtual mechitza, is halacha Moshe Sinai. That's number one. Beloved, halacha that we cancel out a gap which is less than 3. V'deifin hakuma, and likewise the halacha of bending that wall to bring it closer to the sukkah. So even according to Rameir, there are plenty of halachas pertaining to mechitza which are derived through halacha Moshe Sinai. Continues the Gemara. V'she'en lo shalosh lefanis. So Mishnah tells us that the sukkah needs to have at least 3 walls. Tan Rabbanan. Do they need to be full walls? No. Shtaim kil chasim. 2 of them need to be full-sized walls. So you have one wall 7 tefachim long, another one 7 tefachim long. U'shlishis afilu tefach. But the third, we learn this from halacha Moshe Sinai, that was included in the previous halacha mechitzin, that the third wall of the sukkah need not be 7 tefachim in size, even a 1 tefach wall, which provides that doorpost, so to speak, that side post, that pasach into the rest, into the area which is enclosed by those 2 full walls. A tefach is enough to provide that. Now we have a 3-walled sukkah. That's the Tanakama. Rabbi Shimon Omer need more than that. Sholosh kilchasa, need 3 proper walls. Urevius afil tefach. The 4th one could be even a tefach. The more later says that according to Rabbi Shimon, a sukkah needs to be there as kva, it needs to be properly enclosed. Therefore, he says, unless you have it this way, 3 good walls, and the 4th one, a tefach, which is like a pesach to the rest, the sukkah is not kosher. Now, we're going to try to find a makar within the psukim for both shittas. Ma'akim miflagi, what's the basis of their machlekes? Rabbanan hold 2 and a bit. Rabbi Shimon says 3 and a bit. They want to provide no less than 5 approaches. Rabbanan savar yesh aim l'maseris. Rabbanan maintain that the primary focus when it comes to drashos is the maseris, the spelling, the way Moshe Rabbeinu spelled the Torah that he handed over, that he was Moshe to Klal Yisrael. So we have a discrepancy between spelling and reading. We have a steer between the two. Which one are we derish? We focus on the spelling. Reb Shimon Savar Yishem Mikra. We focus on the way it's read. Explains Rashi right off to the side. Yeshem Maseris, which is the spelling. Kamosha Kosa Moshe Mosar B'Sefer Torah Yisrael. Hi ha'aim. That's the aim. That's the mother. That's the source. V'ha ikar. Rather than the way it's read. Says Rashi, Basukas Teishu Shivas Yamim. Yeshu Basukas. He Basukas Heshavti. We find the word Basukas mentioned 3 times. You'll see a difference between the 3. Because Chad is Mali, one has a Vav, Basukais. It's even spelled Basukais. Utrein Chaser, the other ones, although they're read Basukais, but they're not spelled Basukais. So we find a discrepancy between the spelling. It's spelled like a singular, basukas, but it's read plural, basukos. Continues the Gemara. So Rabbanan focuses on the maseres, on the spelling. Rabbi Shimon focuses on the way it's read, on the way it sounds. Rabbanan savri yesh em maseres. We focus on the maseres, the way it's spelled in the Torah. Basukas, basukas. So it's 1 plus 1. And we have basukos, which is another 2, harikan arba, for a total of 4 mentionings of a sukkah. It's going to be used for a drush, to tell you how many walls a sukkah has to have. Now, you can't have 4. Why? Dal chad lugufei. You have to deduct at least 1 for its own sake. So it's telling you, sitting in a sukkah. That's off the list. Pashul klasi, left with 3. We learn from here, shtaim kil chasan, 2 proper walls. Basoy hilchasan. Now comes along the halacha Moshe Messina and tells you, reduce that third wall. V'gar asa l'shlishis. It reduced that third wall from a full-sized wall, v'ukma tefach, and turned it into a tefach. That's how you get 2 and a bit. Rabbi Shimon Savar, he holds yeshem l'mikra. Let's focus on the way it's read. Although it's spelled singular, lashon yachid, basukas, but how's it read? Basukais, basukais, basukais. 3 times 2, arikan sheish, it gives you 6. Once again, you have to deduct 1 for its own sake. Chdal chad kralu gufei, 1 pasuk gets off the list, because that's needed to tell you it's in the sukkah. You left with how much? Pashulu arba, left with 4. That's how I get to 3 and a bit. Shalosh kilchasan, 3 full walls. Soy hilchasa. And I also agree that there's halacha Moshe Sinai, which is going to come reduce that 4th wall, v'gar asalar v'is, v'ukmasa tefach, and deducted that 4th, reduced it down to a tefach. So according to the Rabbanan, it's 2 and a bit. According to Reb Shimon, 3 and a bit. Another approach would be as follows: the kuli alma yesh emel mikra. All agree the focus is on the way it's read. So it's basukais, which is 2, basukais another 2, basukais another 2, for a total of 6. So you're starting with 6. Now, of course, 1 pasuk is deducted, the gufei, to teach you to sit in the sukkah. She left with 4. V'achabaka in the machlekes is as follows: Mar Sava, Rabbanan hold, SUKKAH bayikra. One of those 4 mentionings need to be deducted to be applied for SUKKAH, to teach you that you need halachically approved SUKKAH on your sukkah. So you left with merely with 3, And the halacha Moshe Sinai reduces 1 to a tefach, so it's 2 and a bit. That's the Rabbanon. Umar Sava, whereas Reb Shimon holds, Schach lo b'yikra, you don't need a pasuk for schach, as Rashi says, because it's called a sukkah. Without schach, it's not a sukkah. So he holds, you still have 4 remaining. The halacha Moshe Sinai reduces the 4th one to a tefach. That's why he gets 2, 3 and a bit. Another pshat can be the kuli almo yeshem l'maseres. All agree you want to follow the maseres, the spelling. So you have 4 to start with, and 1, of course, is deducted l'gufei for its own sake to teach you to sit in a sukkah. V'acha b'kamifleki. And the machlokes is as follows: Mar savar Rabbanon hold ki asoy hilchas l'gareya. Halacha came to reduce, so he started with the 3. The halacha reduced the 3rd one down to a tefach. He left with 2 and a tefach. Umar Saba, whereas Reb Shimon holds, Ki asoy hilchas l'haisa. Actually, halacha came to add. So he started with 3. Halacha comes to add another tefach, 3 and a bit. Another pshat can be the kuli amo ki asoy hilchas l'gareya. All agree that halacha comes to deduct. V'yesh em l'maseres. All agree you follow the spelling. So you started with 4, and halacha comes to be megareya. So what's the machlokes? The question is whether you need to deduct 1 for its own sake. Are you derish the first time the Torah mentions it, or do you say no? You need it l'gufei to tell you that you meant to sit in a sukkah. Ma'asav aderish and tchilas. Reb Shimon holds you can be derish even the first one. Explains the Ran. Although typically we don't do that, but here we have a long list of basukahs. We have many other mentionings of basukah for a drasha. So once they're used for a drasha, we put the first one into the list as well. We apply it to a drasha. Therefore, says Reb Shimon, you started with 4. Halacha deducted 1, brought it down to a tefach, leaves you with 3 and a bit. Omar Savar and Dershin Tchiles, whereas Rabbanon hold even in this case, you can't use the first for a drasha, it's needed for its own sake. So you started with 4. 1 cannot be used for a drasha. You're down to 3. The halacha reduced the 3rd one to a tefach, which leaves you with 2 and a bit. Rav Masna Amar, Taimei Reb Shimon Mahacha. Reb Shimon is coming from a pasuk, which indicates they need a properly enclosed area, a proper place of shelter, which can only happen if you're fully enclosed with 3 walls and a bit on the other side. Pasuk in Yeshaya says, "V'sukkah." What is a sukkah? Teilat yom yom provide shade and protection from heat. Ula machse, ula mistar, mizerim and matar. Be a protector, provide shelter from rain, mizerim and matar. Explains Rashi 10 lines from the bottom. Ula machse, ula mistar, below arba machitzes. Love machse mizerimu. Without 4 machitzes, you're not really protecting much. Sharuch meisha b'sazer, the wind will just blow the rain in. Derech deifan apart through that open door, through that open wall. Therefore, Shema says you need more than just 2 and a bit. You need 3 and a bit, and that 4th wall, of course, is a Pesach. I have to get in and out. Tosfos brings a Yerushalmi, which elaborates further. You might want to see the Tosfos inside. So it's 2 lines from the bottom. V'sukkah tiyel etzel says Tosfos b'Yerushalmi amrinan tamid Reb Shimon min hada kroya. He sources it in this pasuk. V'sukkah tiyel etzel yayim mechorev. Hari achas, and there's a gersa achas lamala. So the first part of the pasuk, it's going to create a sail. It's referring to the schach on top. The pasuk continues lamachse ulemister harishnayim, referring to 2 walls. Furthermore, mizerem umimater, it's another shnayim, for a total of 4 walls, 3 and a bit. So that's his shita. Rabban Amri, mizerem umimater achas. Zerem matar, it's all about rain and drizzling. So it's all one thing. So instead of getting 4 walls, they only get 2, 3. So this is the makar for Reb Shimon's 4 and Rabbanon's 3. So in conclusion, how many tfanos does the sukkah need to have? According to Reb Shimon, 3 and a tefach. The Rabbanon, 2 and a tefach. We have 5 ways of explaining the machlokes. Let's just go quickly. According to the first pshat, it's a question of how to focus when we have a conflict between mikra, between how you read the psukim, and the maseres and the way it's spelled. So we have 3 mentionings of basukos. In its spelling, we have basukas, so it's 1 plus 1, and basukos, another 2, which is 4. In its reading, it's basukos, 3 times 2 for 6. Rabbi Shimon says you follow the mikra. You start with 6. You deduct 1 pasuk l'gufei. That gives you 4. Halacha reduces it to 3 and a bit. But the Rabban, we follow the Maseres, the spelling. You started with 4. You reduced 1 l'gufei. And then the Halacha Mishim Sinai was megareya, that third one to a tefach, which leaves you with 2 and a bit. Second approach was, all agree, you follow the mikra. You start with 6. Rabbi Shimon says, deduct 1 pasuk l'gufei, leaves you with 4. Halacha reduces it to 3 and a bit. Rabbana maintain 1 pasuk goes down l'gufei, so deduct 2 of the 6, and deduct 1 more mentioning of basukos to be applied for SUKKAH, which leaves you with only 3. Halacha takes it down to 2 and a bit. Third approach was, all agree Maseres is the way to go. So you start only with 4. 1 goes down l'gufei, and according to Rabbi Shimon, the halacha is actually moisif. It's coming to add, not to deduct. So it started with 3, you ended with 3 and a bit. According to Rabbanon, you start with 4, 1 deduct l'gufei, the halacha takes it down from 3 to 2 and a bit. Halacha is megareya. Fourth approach was, all agree, Maseres is the way to go, so you start with 4. According to Rabbi Shimon, halacha took it down from 4 to 3 and a bit. According to Rabbanon, you're not derish tchilas, so you need to deduct 1 l'gufei, which leaves you with 3. Comes halacha and takes it down to 2 and a bit. And the final approach, Rabbi Shimon, was based on a pasuk. Took the SUKKAH, etc., mizer and matar. And the Gemara later in Daf Zayin tells us he holds that his sukkah is diras kva, has to afford proper protection. It needs to be fully surrounded. According to Rabbanon, sukkah is merely diras harai. Therefore, according to them, you don't need that much. 2 and a bit is sufficient. And actually, Tais brings Yerushalmi that the machlokes is based on how to darshan the pasuk, but it would seem from the Gemara Daf Zayin it's actually svara based. The svara of whether it's diras arai, diras kva propels the drasha and the approach to this pasuk. Okay, time for a brief chazara. We learned that shiur and chatzitz and mechitzin are learned by way of halacha mishmei Sinai. And although we have a pasuk describing the shivas aminim, which will all apply to various shiurim shel Torah, but the details were of course handed down through halacha mishmei Sinai and supported as an asmachta in this pasuk. Likewise, the details and guidelines of chatzitza were handed down l'Moshe Sinai, and of course the concept was learned in the psukim, but the details and guidelines were conveyed by halacha mishmei Sinai. What are the guidelines of chatzitza? So is a significantly sized chatzitza in the basar or the seir, and he is makbid on it. So you have both elements. It's significant on account of its size, and on account of the fact that it disturbs the person, and cannot be considered part of him. He rejects the chatzitza. So both those elements combine to create a chatzitza min Torah. They pose a barrier between one and the water. If only one of those conditions are present, it's large in size, it's right, or it's small but he is makbid, then it's a chatzitza d'Rabbanan. When none are present, it's small in size, it's only miyut, and he's really indifferent about the presence of this chatzitza, then it's not considered chatzitza even d'Rabbanan. Which hilchos mechitza were taught halacha mishmei Sinai? The fact that mechitza needs to rise 10 tefachim, according to Rabbi Yehuda, and gurasik, love it. And of course, the fact that the last wall of the sukkah need not be a fully sized wall, merely a tefach is sufficient that provides a doorway, a pesach, into the properly enclosed area. Now, what is considered a properly enclosed sukkah? So according to Rabbanon, you need merely shtayim kilchasan, with the third one being a tefach. According to Rabbi Shimon, shalosh kilchasan, a revi'as tefach needs to appear like a proper place of dwelling, a diras kva. The Gemara provided 5 approaches to understand the machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanon. Kol tov to you and atzlacha rab.